Hey, honey,
What, honey?
guess what?
What?
It's Food Friday.
We love food.
I love
I
all
love food too
I
much.
love food so much.
My doctor says stop loving food so much. So I'm trying to work on. Hey, hopefully this journey that we're going on with you guys will be a journey of me getting skinnier. So
Yeah.
this isn't gonna help though.
No, this is going to be an exciting, thought-provoking video today.
15 forgotten fast foods. Hey there, Savage Reaction crew. I'm David.
I'm Angie.
I'm a little bit of everything.
I'm a whole lot of rock and roll.
15 forgotten fast food chains. How could anybody forget about a fast food chain?
I forget a lot of things.
But they're so quintessential to our existence. Fast food is like, I don't have time to cook something right now, or it's just not convenient, or I just don't feel like it. And so you head off to the fast food place. And I mean, there's the national chains, and then there's the local chains. I can't imagine forgetting national chains, but apparently it happens. So I guess maybe we should check this out and see what's going on.
Let's do it.
Fast food industry is a staple that makes millions and millions of dollars. Most everyone is familiar with McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, but over the years there have been many other successful chains.
Can I just say real quick, though? I haven't eaten yet today. I'm so hungry. My stomach just growled just looking at these.
Don't get hangry, especially during the video. We want to be nice.
So hungry.
Unfortunately, some of these have disappeared and are no longer with us. In today's video, we'll take a closer look at some of those restaurants that are no longer around. Winkies was founded in 1962 by the Ehrenstein brothers, who really didn't plan on opening a fast food chain.
I'm seeing why some of these might not be around anymore. Really? Winkies? Come on.
Started out as meat suppliers, and one particular restaurant began having an increase in orders. That restaurant was McDonald's, which ended up serving as an inspiration for the first Winkies. Since they supplied meat to their own restaurant, they could cut out the middleman. At their peak, they had 42 locations in 3 states, but ultimately they filed for bankruptcy in the early 1980s.
Oh, that's why I don't remember them.
Yeah.
Showbiz Pizza Place was founded in 1980 by Creative Engineering and Robert Brock. At its peak, it had 280 stores. Early on, the chain was successful because it capitalized on the popularity of video games. The animatronics that Showbiz had separated it from Chuck E. Cheese. The company was headquartered in Irving, Texas, but it was not able to survive on its own, so it merged with Chuck E. Cheese in 1992, and all locations were rebranded. Childs was one of the first restaurant chains in the United States.
Did you go to Chuck E. Cheese when you were a kid?
Yeah.
My parents took me, or I went with somebody's birthday party or something. I remember going there once or twice.
Did Chuck E. Cheese make you cry? Were you terrified of the giant moving rat?
No, I love the little show that they put on, and they're playing the music and stuff. I mean, I love everybody that plays music. Like,
even if they are a big gorilla or a big giant freaky mouse.
I love that. But you know what's funny though? Oh, I mean, I guess it's not funny. Our kids haven't been to Chuck E. Cheese. We didn't take our kids. There's so many germs.
Ugh.
Like, it got so gross that, and 2 of our kids got sick all the time.
Every single time.
Like, every time we took them to McDonald's playground,
Yeah.
they got sick.
So I literally
The last place we were
looked
gonna
at
take
her
them
and I said, I'm not taking them to McDonald's anymore. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, we stopped doing that.
It
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad. Like, they missed out a little bit by not going to Chuck E. Cheese, but then they also missed out on not getting sick. So,
Yeah.
you know, from Chuck E. Cheese.
They'll thank us later.
Yeah.
States. They began in 1889 at a location in New York City and
Beautiful
soon expanded to 29 cities across the country and even into Canada. Their business model paved the way for restaurant giants such as McDonald's with food options, service, and sanitation. During its peak in the 1920s and 1930s, they operated 125 locations, but they struggled the following 2 decades. They tried introducing new items such as the hot dog machine, the ice cream machine, and even flipping flapjacks.
Wow.
However, this did not help them, and all locations were closed in the late 1960s.
Wow, look at that. Could you imagine going there?
That'd be insane.
Minnie Pearl's Chicken was named after a country comedian who was
Pearl.
also known as Minnie Pearl, but her real name was Sarah Ophelia Kamen. Minnie Pearl had nothing to do with the restaurant other than lending her name. It was founded in 1960 and it was meant to compete with Kentucky Fried Chicken and did so in its early years. It didn't take long before there were 567 locations opened and franchised. KFC proved to be too much to keep up with, and when the owners revealed that they were $1.2 million in debt, the chain folded in 1968.
Could you imagine how much that would be now? That was in 1968.
Probably 16 billion. Or 16 million in debt.
Million, right? That's crazy. I kind of want chicken now.
Carol's was an early fast food chain founded in 1960 that had a yellow slug as a mascot. Later on, the mascot changed to a little blonde boy sporting a fedora. When Herb Schlotnick purchased
Because when I think of delicious food,
I think slugs.
the rights, the company began franchising. He saw potential in offering 15-cent hamburgers. The last Carol's location closed in 1980, but the holding company saw Burger King and jumped on the opportunity to own and franchise locations. They now own over 1,000 Burger King and Popeye locations.
I love Popeyes.
By now, most people in America have heard of the Walgreens drugstore. But did you know that they also owned and operated a 24-hour diner restaurant in the 1970s?
It's got the same W.
It was known as Wags, and it is based on the Denny's concept. There were 91 locations that were spread along busy highways between 1970 and 1991. The menu consisted of breakfast platters and hamburgers.
I wonder if you worked at Walgreens, if they could task you to, hey, we're going to need you to go work at Wags tonight.
Knowing what I know, probably.
Walgreens sold all of its restaurants except for a few located in malls to Marriott Corporation in 1988.
Marriott.
Ownership changed hands a few times before it permanently shut down in 1991. Some of the locations were turned into IHOP.
Love IHOP.
Royal Castle began in 1938 in Miami, Florida, and they primarily served burgers and root beer. They were open for lunch and dinner, but they also served breakfast, and people loved their freshly squeezed orange juice. At their peak, they had 175 locations in Florida, Louisiana, Georgia, and Ohio. They were bought out by Performance Systems in 1969, and they had steady yearly losses thanks to places like McDonald's. However, there is one restaurant left, which is located in Miami, Florida. Bob's Big Boy was a restaurant chain that started in Southern California in 1926, and it was originally called Bob's Pantry.
I've never been.
Their mascot is not only recognizable, but it has become a huge American icon.
You been?
The chain is now defunct, but the parent company Bob's Big Boy Restaurant Group is still around. Today, only 5 Big Boy restaurants remain. Dee's Drive-In began in 1932 when D. Frederick Anderson opened his first restaurant in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was inspired to start his own burger joint after selling hamburgers at the University of Utah. The chain would later grow to 53 restaurants and bring in $20 million a year. In the early 2000s, the chain had a slew of sexual harassment lawsuits which cost the company millions
Freaking clowns, man. That's what I'm telling you.
Those sexually harassing clowns.
of dollars. The last location closed in 2005, and some of the restaurants were converted into Walgreens pharmacies.
Oh, converted into Walgreens.
Wow.
Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor was founded in 1963 in Portland, Oregon by Bob Farrell and his business partner Ken McCarthy. By 1975, the company peaked with 120 locations. Farrell's was known for giving out a free ice cream sundae to kids on their birthday. All of the parlors had an early 20th century theme, and employees wore boat hats.
It looks like Swenson's a little bit.
A little bit.
During the 1980s, the chain ran into economic trouble. The last locations were open in California, and the last parlor closed in Brea, California on June 8, 2019. Marcus Lemonis still owns the brand, but we'll have to wait and see if it ever comes back. Kenny Rogers Roasters was started by the country music singer Kenny Rogers in 1991. This chain of restaurants served chicken and
You know what he learned from his restaurant experience?
You gotta know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em.
Know when to walk away.
And know when to run. You know, as soon as I saw that pop up, I started thinking that exact same thing.
Me too.
And that's when you know that you've been married to someone for 20 years.
Yep.
At its peak, there were 425 locations. Rogers decided to start his own restaurant after he was one of the early investors in Kentucky Fried Chicken, which helped make him millions of dollars. In 1999, the company...
He was an early investor in KFC. How old is Ken? He's still alive, right? I don't want to make the mistake you made with Phil Collins.
Alexa, is Kenny Rogers still alive?
Oh.
Wah, wah.
Happened during that time period that we don't
Time.
reflect back upon. Aw. Sorry, Kenny Rogers. I was going to say, I mean, that
gambler,
dude,
he broke even.
yeah, he had to have been. I mean, if he had invested in KFC. All right. Moving
company
forward.
closed down its U.S. operations, and now it only operates in Asia, where it has 156 locations.
Oh, you got to know when to hold 'em. Or when to hold
Howard
'em.
Johnson started out in 1925 in
Hojo.
Olney, Massachusetts as a single soda
Hojos.
stand. It would become one of the first fast food restaurants to offer dine-in service.
That's the only one I've recognized.
Not only
so
that,
far.
but it also became one of America's first franchises when it opened its second location following the Great Depression. There were over 400 locations across the United States at its peak. In 1954, the restaurant decided to get into the hotel industry. They transformed their restaurants into motor lodges for those on long road trips looking for affordable places to stay. The last restaurant closed in 2017, but the motor lodges are still open and owned by Wyndham.
We used to take trips down to. I didn't know there was a dog running loose. Hello, Riley. We used to take trips down to Florida when I was growing up, and that was one of the places that we'd go eat was Howard Johnson's. We'd go have breakfast there. And another one was IHOP that was kind of mentioned earlier. That I didn't know that IHOP existed outside of Florida until I moved to Arizona, and then there's IHOPs here, and it was like so special. Thought that was cool. Right. So far out of all these restaurants that were previous, yes, I see you. Out of previous ones, the only one I recognize really is Howard Johnson's so far. What about you? Well, Bob's Big Boy.
Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah, but that's one again. Like for me, it's like the ice cream man. I didn't know it existed. Never.
She's all, how could you not know?
Never been. All right, here we go.
Steak and Ale was started by Norman Brinker, who owned the first location in Dallas, Texas in 1966. The restaurant's goal was to serve quality steaks at a price that any American could afford. They were also known for their sandwiches, hamburgers, and salad bar.
Bill of fare,
Their
lords
restaurants
and
were in a
ladies.
Tudor-style building with dimmed lighting. This setting made patrons feel like they were in a more upscale restaurant rather than a fast food place. At its peak, they had 280 restaurants, and they remained independent until it was purchased by Pillsbury, which soon followed by the creation of S&A Restaurant Corporation. In 2008, the market crashed and the company filed for bankruptcy. As a result, all of the restaurants were closed for good.
Wah, wah.
Gino's Hamburgers was started by a professional football player named Gino Marchetti in 1959. He was a defensive end for the Colts, but he founded the restaurant with teammate Alan Amici in Baltimore, Maryland. They were known for their burgers and chicken, and eventually they grew to 359 locations across the country. The chain was bought out by Marriott, who rebranded the restaurants as Roy Rogers in 1986.
Oh, Roy Rogers.
A few of those Roy Rogers are still around today, but not the Genos.
What do you think, Pete?
Chi-Chi's is a chain of Mexican restaurants owned by Hormel, and it began in 1974. At its peak, there were 210 locations across the United States. However, all of these locations closed down in 2004 as a result of bankruptcy. In 2003, just 1 month after it declared bankruptcy, Chi-Chi's had the largest hepatitis A outbreak in the history of the United States.
Jinkies!
There were 4 deaths and 660 infections in total, which caused millions in lawsuits that Chi-Chi's could not recover from. The interesting thing about Chi-Chi's is it still has locations that are open in Austria, Kuwait, and UAE.
They didn't get the news.
Away.
Although these food chains are no longer around, they still hold special memories for those that visited them. The fast food industry is constantly changing, and what's here today could be gone tomorrow. What are some of the places you enjoyed but are now gone forever? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, the only ones I recognize off of that list, the only one I had been to off the entire list was Howard Johnson's, Hojo's, and I've heard of Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah. I had been to a Hojo and a Bob's Big Boy. And I think maybe a Chi-Chi, but I did not get hepatitis A. Thank goodness.
You know what another one is that I'm kind of surprised they didn't mention? Remember, I think you had it out here. Did you have Woolworths out here?
That was a department store.
Yeah, but there was a restaurant inside of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah, growing up, like, I grew up in a small town. We didn't have Woolworths, so we had to go to a different town to go to Woolworths.
You grew up
But-
in a small town.
I did. But, yeah, like, it was an exciting trip because you'd go shopping and you could eat right there at Woolworths. It was good food, too. So, do you guys remember going to Woolworths? Do you guys remember any of these restaurants? Have you been to any? What are your thoughts? Comment
us
down
know.
below.
But before you go,
I am so hungry.
would you get my wife something to eat, please? Before you go, make sure that you subscribe,
Like,
share.
ring. I know, but I feel like we did that out of order again.
No, we did
Ring,
not.
ring
Watch.
the little. It's because I'm
Watch.
hungry.
Watch here. We'll do it again. Ready? Before you go, make sure that you subscribe,
Like,
share,
ring the little bell.
and comment down below. Until next time, peace.
Rock on.